Hello, everybody. My name is Victoria Vitale. I'm a student tutor here at Kane. And today, in this presentation, you will learn about what copyright is and how it is connected to ethics. So let's get started. What is copyright? Copyright is the recognition that our expressed ideas are our own. Copyright protection recognizes that intellectual production should belong to the author, at least for a specific length of time, and it is the author who decides what will happen with their work. Anyone who creates anything original that is then shared in a tangible form is considered an author, and the original work is protected under the law. Copyright is intended as a way to prevent intellectual theft at all levels, from schools to federal government. We will dive more deeply into these ideas as we move forward through this presentation. For a work to be copyright protected, it must be original and minimally creative. The work does not have to be super creative. Just a little bit of creativity is enough to get the threshold met. However, the work also needs to be fixed, which means that a tangible form of expression has been used to somehow record the work. This part means that copyright does not protect ideas or certain improvised pieces of performance. So, copyright protects the expressive content, not the underlying ideas. Copyright protection is limited in scope. The amount of time, type of work, and means of expression are all described in the law. Many people assume that copyright protects ideas as well as the means of their expression. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Copyright only protects the means through which ideas have been fixed. This is known as the idea/expression dichotomy. There are other laws that might protect ideas and other intellectual property that copyright does not, and those will be covered in future workshops. So what doesn't copyright cover? In addition to ideas, copyright protection does not cover any of these categories like methods, discoveries, facts, and short phrases. Copyright does protect such things as document design or the specific language, but not the core ideas or principles. In order to get these categories or documents protected, authors need to seek trademarks or patents. Who is eligible to receive copyright? So, copyright covers creative works that have been made by humans. This means that non-humans, such as animals or artificial intelligence, cannot seek copyright protection for their own work, nor can that work be covered under a current law. In addition to the authors who make the work, heirs and assignees are also able to seek copyright protection and registration. For example, if your grandmother has kept a cookbook at home and she left it for you in her will, you can seek copyright protection and registration as long as the recipes are accompanied by detailed literary instructions on the cooking process. Another group able to seek copyright are minors. Parents are not copyright holders of their children's intellectual production, nor are schools, even if the work in question was an assignment for class. Finally, foreign nationals are also covered by copyright in the United States and can register their works to receive additional protections. Where does copyright come from? So, basically, although copyright applies to all works the second that they are created, additional protections can be earned through registering the work with the Copyright Office. The Copyright Office handles the registration process, which, if successful, enters your work into the public record. All registrants, if successful, receive a certificate of registration. However, if a work is rejected, a letter of rejection is issued. Both the certificate of registration and the letter of rejection can be used as a legal basis for a copyright infringement case. The Copyright Office also collects documentation on transfers of copyrights, terminations of parts of copyrights, as well as any other documentation. The public is able to search through the Copyright Office's records either in person or online. Who makes the rules on copyright? So, copyright protections continue to evolve in order to account for changes in technology, society, and culture. Since 1790, Congress has worked to build frameworks that strengthen copyright and recognize the cultural reality surrounding authorship. The copyright law is codified in Title 17 of the United States Code. The two major copyright laws are the Copyright Act of 1976 and the Digital Millennium Copyright Act of 1998. Each of these pieces of legislature adjusted the code to recognize new advancements in technology, as well as the protections of authors in the changing technological landscape. Title 17 continues to be received and updated, and you can see all of the changes to the law at copyright.gov. How does copyright affect the author? So the copyright period is throughout the life of the author and extends 70 years after their death. Copyright law allows holders to retain sole ownership to certain rights. Copyright holders have the ability to decide how the work will be shared with the world, when, where, for how long, and in what ways. Copyright holders can negotiate the transfer of their copyright with others. For example, a TV studio can purchase a part of copyright from the copyright holder in exchange for money, royalties, or distribution deals. The copyright holder, however, has the ultimate right to make decisions about any contracts and terms of contracts. Can I use other people's work? Okay, so here's how this works. There are many ways to use copyrighted material, and we actually do it every day. The most common way that we receive permission to use copyrighted material is through purchases, leases, and licenses. Whenever you read a book you bought, watch a movie you rented, or listen to music you are streaming through a subscription platform, you are using copyright. By making the purchase, you exchange money for limited use of the copyrighted material. As long as the use of material is in line with what the terms of the purchase are, you are not in danger of copyright infringement. What about using works beyond the purchase, lease, and license boundaries? What if I am not sure whether my usage is okay? You can always ask the copyright holder for permission. If the work is registered, then you will be able to find out who the copyright holder is. Make sure that you retain documentation or a release for future reference. There are also exceptions to copyright laws that have been created to allow public use and access to works of others, within limitations, of course. The most famous exception is fair use. This foundational rule allows others to use portions from copyrighted material in certain instances, and we will learn more about fair use in a moment. So, what is fair use? Fair use is an essential part of the copyright law and has been added as a limitation in order to promote the free exchange of ideas and progress in scientific discoveries. Fair use enables people to refer to or use portions of copyrighted material without asking for permission from the author. In general, fair use covers the usage of copyrighted material in the process of study or work that enhances the public access and understanding of the copyrighted material. There are no specific guidelines, lengths, or mechanisms described in the fair use exception, and only a federal judge can determine whether the exception was applied correctly. It is a good idea to ask authors for their permission before using their work in the process of your own. One note about fair use is that many people mistake plagiarism and fair use. Keep in mind that while citing and giving credit will protect you from plagiarism, it will not protect you from copyright infringement claims. Plagiarism is an academic standard, while copyright is a legal protection. The two are not mutually exclusive, and each has its own place in the process of intellectual production. So just keep in mind that they are different. Fair use can be thought of as a case-by-case test. There are no hard and fast rules or rubrics to apply. So whenever you apply fair use, try and consider these 4 guidelines. Fair use generally supports the usage of copyrighted material in the case of educational, non-commercial, and transformative usage. To transform a work means not to produce a substitute for the original, but to create a new purpose or new message or new meaning. Here, think of academic papers and fan fictions. When considering the nature of copyrighted material, be aware that previously published and commercially distributed materials are more likely to be determined as fair use since they are already out there. Although there is no specific formula for determining how much is too much to use, the guidelines ask you to consider whether you are using the heart of the copyrighted piece or an overall too large of a percentage. Finally, you are asked to consider how your work will impact the market for the original work. Your work should not produce a material diminishing of profits for the original work. Are there any works that are not copyright protected? So there are some works that are either no longer carry a copyright or that have been open to the public for their use. Once the copyright has run out, works revert to the public domain and are free for all to use. That means that publishing houses can print editions of works in the public without needing to pay royalties. It also means that anyone using works in the public domain and their own intellectual work cannot be sued for copyright infringement. There are also royalty-free repositories of images, music, computer code, etc., freely available online to the public. The Associated Press, Getty, and Stack Overflow are all examples of royalty-free repositories. In addition, many of the works in the Library of Congress are a part of public domain, but it is the user's responsibility to check the copyright status. Finally, many works under the Open Educational Resources allow use without asking for permission or royalties. So how do I know if something is copyright protected? To determine if something is copyrighted, look for the copyright symbol or check the public catalog at the Copyright Office. Keep in mind that not all works are registered, so they might not come up in the public catalog. And you can look for the copyright symbols and dates on the material. So you got the @ sign, you got the copyright, you got COPR period, followed by the year of first publication or registration. And like I said, not all works are registered. So how does copyright impact student research? So as a student, there are several impacts on you and your work. All of the work that you produce is most likely covered under copyright provided it means the minimal creativity standard. You are free to register your work and to use the copyright protections. If you have co-authored work with someone else, you need to be aware that you hold the copyright to your own contribution of the co-authored piece. When you are writing research papers, always remember that you might be covered by the fair use exception, especially when referring to the work of others. Typically, work of non-for-profit educational institutions is far less likely to be found in violation of copyright laws. You can also use the works that are in public domain, royalty-free repositories, and open educational resources to ensure that the work you are producing is not violating any laws. And then we have some works cited here. But overall, guys, I hope this video helped you understand a little bit more about copyright and ethics, and I really hope you enjoyed it. So thank you for listening.